Episode 6 of The Acolyte, I don't even know what the heck I'm watching anymore. We get stupid Jedi, naked Smilo Ren, and two sisters whose character motivations seem to change at the drop of a dong hat.
Oh! Ew! Dude! What the?
I have watched a lot of bad television, a lot of bad movies. And with Disney, I've seen a lot of bad Star Wars. But ladies and gentlemen, this takes the cake. And I would know because I am old.
You're goddamn right.
Our first scene sees Osha wake up in a mysterious cave, obviously the dwelling of someone. Obviously, we know who that is based off of last episode. It's Smilo Ren's dwelling. So she walks outside, she looks and sees an ocean out in front of her and a ship in the distance, but really no way to get to it other than having to swim. She finds a path that leads down to the shore. As she looks over, she sees Smilo Ren walking down the path. So she follows him, somehow him not knowing that she's even there, which makes no sense considering he is a Sith Lord. He should be able to sense her presence. Then Smilo Ren takes off all his clothes very slowly and seductively and steps into the shallow pool so he can swim around. Osha is watching him the entire time as he's swimming. She knows he's naked. She watched him disrobe. Then they have an awkward conversation that he knows she's there. Even though she's trying to sneak up, it looks so ridiculous. And then as he turns around, he comes out of the water. She grabs his lightsaber and then watches him walk up the beach. And at the last second, takes a peek at his little Sith master.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
Is that what Disney Star Wars has become? This was a show marketed towards 12-year-olds, and we've got a naked Sith master walking towards a woman holding a lightsaber who looks down and checks him out as he's approaching her. Mind you, in the last episode, he murdered a bunch of Jedi, tried to kill Osha, then ends up saving her. Her motivations are that she wanted to not have her master kill the Sith master when he had a chance. So they have a confrontation on the beach. Smilo Ren dares her to kill him, but says she's thinking it wouldn't be honorable, seeing that he's naked. Meanwhile, Jedi Master Soul, who has had his whole party annihilated by Smilo Ren, returns to his ship with May in tow, wearing her sister's clothing. How he can't use the Force to sense that it's not his Padawan or former Padawan, I'll never know, and it's never explained, at least not yet. As they're on the ship, Soul sees a transmission start to come through from Coruscant, but it starts to break up, and as he tries to return transmission, the ship powers down for some reason, and May goes to find out what the problem is. Meanwhile, back on Coruscant, Master Venestra, our green, bald-headed, real-life wife of the showrunner, Leslie Headland, Harvey Weinstein's former personal assistant, gets a transmission from someone saying that there is a senator who is opposing the Jedi. Obviously, there's whispers of something going on behind the scenes, and he has been gaining support. As she takes this message, her young, possibly gay Jedi comes walking in the door. He delivers a message to Master Venestra that they received a comm from Master Soul saying that he had lost the entire team and he was on a mission to the Outer Rim. Of course, Master Venestra knows about this, but our young gay Jedi doesn't know that yet. So, as he questions her when she tells him she wants to send a team, he asks, "How did you know that?" And then she fills him in and says, "I'm the one that actually sent him on the mission." We cut to the beach, and Smilo Ren and Osha are walking back up, and they have a short conversation, and she finds out he used to be a Jedi. We also saw, while he was bathing in the pool, that he has scars on his back that look like whip marks. So we get a little backstory for Smilo Ren, our Sith Master, which I think we all could have guessed about. As a matter of fact, I think everybody guessed that he was a former Jedi or former Padawan. And oh, he was whipped at some point in time. Interesting. Nonetheless, Osha follows him back up to his cave, and he has begun to seduce her with the dark side. We cut back to the ship, and we see May walking around looking for the power outage. She comes across the little Pip robot that was her sister's robot, and she sees it sitting on a little charging stand. It was placed there in a prior episode by Basil, the little furry tracker thing that looks like a beaver. As she begins to grab the Pip robot, Basil comes out of a doorway, and then he looks at her, he smells her, and then he does this little dance where he spins around. Now, meanwhile, there's melancholy music. It's kind of funny. It's a complete tonal shift from the prior scenes we just had, which were serious, to now all of a sudden we go to this is a fun little adventure. So Basil, the little furry creature, dances around, then he runs up and attacks May, but he tries to hump her leg. And then he stomps on her foot, and she kind of shoos him away. He takes off and he runs back out the corridor with a flashlight. Then the little Pip robot spits oil into May's eye. How in the world that happened, who knows? Where's the reservoir? The thing is about as big as a cell phone. It's like not even this big, it's tiny. So, anyway, so she wipes it off, but then as immediately as they cut, there's nothing on her face, there's nothing on her gloves. But she grabs the little robot, and you know what she does? She does a factory reset. She even says it. So again, we have real world phrases being used in the show. They make no sense, but she factory resets the droid to shut it down. After the factory reset, May is able to use the PIP computer to figure out why the power has been shut down, and she begins to restore power. We then get a conversation between Smilo Ren and Osha in the cave as he's seducing her to the dark side. Every time she puts up resistance, he comes back at her with another reason. She mentions her friends and the Jedi he killed, and he says, well, they threaten my existence. She brings up the little Padawan that was Soul's Padawan, and he says, well, your relationship with her would have been one-sided. He basically says that the difference between the light side and the dark side are semantics, which I guess to a point, yes, you could say that. But ultimately, within the lore of Star Wars, the path to the dark side is the dark side. It's not a matter of a point of view. And so this character, who used to be a Jedi, Smilo Ren, is now justifying his reason for wanting to be a Sith master. They go outside the cave and stand on his veranda with a beautiful view of the ocean and the ship. And she still has his lightsaber in her hand. And when he walks out following her, he says, aren't you forgetting something? And mentions that she's there to kill him. Now, he walks up to her and grabs a hold of her like two lovers embracing each other, even to the point where he caresses her arm right here and moves it down. You can tell there is sexual tension now between these two characters who don't even know each other. They've never spent time with each other. He even mentions that, the other Jedi, they can't go as deep as she can, and she needs to lose control and follow her emotions and anger because she lost everything. And he says, and when you lose everything, you'll finally be free. And in the scene, they are standing very close. She's holding a lightsaber to his neck, but obviously she backs away. And now she's having second thoughts. But it amazes me that this guy knows nothing about her. He trained her sister, but he knows nothing about Osha. And yet he's acting as if he's known her whole life, all of her motivations, which no one knows her motivations. The show hasn't even expressed or made us understand her motivations, nor her sisters for that matter. We now have Disney's Beauty and the Beast in Star Wars. And yet I can't figure out which one is the beauty and which one is the beast. That Manny Jacinto is really freaking hot.
You serious?
Representation! Back on Coruscant, our effeminate, possibly gay Jedi, oh, by the way, his name is Mog, M-O-G, informs Master Vanestra that they're ready to go, but he expresses concern over her leaving. He says that the deaths on that planet could be attributed to uncharted territory. He has concern for her well-being, and then she chastises him basically and says that she's going. And he says, well, you don't like hyperspace travel. You sometimes get sick. She says, oh, I don't get sick. I just find it unsettling. And then as she turns around to walk away, she goes, of course, because he's a stupid man. Back on the ship, May comes and tells Soul that she has found a way to restart the power. It's going to be about 5 minutes. As he's sitting there, he noticed the pip droid on her hip. And he mentions he notices how she takes care of it and that she loves it, even though it's just a machine. And then she expresses her desire to learn about what happened on Brendock years ago when she was a child and her whole lesbian witch coven burned down and everybody died. This is when we get our first fake out because just as Soul is about to tell her what she wants to hear, the power boots up. As soon as the power comes back on, we see May rush into the cockpit and try to make an outgoing transmission. And then she is shot by a stun gun. And then Soul is standing behind her. And we see the little beaver guy, Bazir, standing there talking to him, obviously having alerted him that it is not OSHA, but instead May in the cockpit. Right about that time, an inbound transmission comes in from the Jedi party that is coming to rescue them, and Soul shuts it off and then puts the ship in the hyperdrive as Basil watches and wonders why he's taking off. 2 seconds later, the Jedi party come with Master Venestra and Moog in tow, and then they land on the planet and they talk to some of the locals and find out that something indeed did go down. And they head off to the village to investigate. Meanwhile, in the cave, we have Smilo Ren and Osha, and they have a conversation. He explains that he used to be a Jedi. He was a youngling, obviously, and at one time his master threw him away. He reveals the scar on his back, and she thinks that it's someone that stabbed him. He doesn't exactly tell us what happened, but it really looks more like whip marks instead of a stab wound. And in a few minutes, we'll figure out why that seems to make sense. And then the mystery that's supposed to be a mystery isn't really much of a mystery after that scene.
What? What the fuck?
We then get Smilo Ren explaining that his helmet is made of cortosis and that it blocks out Jedi from trying to get into their mind. It also blocks lightsabers. And so it's like a sensory deprivation device like they used to use as younglings. Osha says she doesn't trust Smilo Ren, and he says you need to learn to trust yourself. And then he picks up a box of stuff and he walks away. And then we get an ominous scene where she turns around and looks at the helmet as the music swells. We know what's coming next. Meanwhile, the Jedi party is now investigating the scene. They walk around, they look at the bodies. Master Venestra asks Moog what he thinks happened. And then after a couple tries, he kind of figures it out, sees that there was an extraordinarily powerful person who was able to kill this many Jedi. But right after he explains this, we see the bugs that are normally attracted to light. For some reason, one of them decides to attack Master Venestra. And this is when we see her lightsaber whip come into play as she slashes the bug and cuts it right in half. Moog then says maybe it was Master Saul who did this, and Master Venestra says that's quite the accusation. So then they're trying to figure out who it might be, and I think Venestra knows who it is because she says someone to tip the scales. Before the Jedi depart, they decide to prepare the bodies for burial. Thank God somebody did. Next, we see Soul and May on the ship. May is on a table and she has been held down by some kind of device so she can't get up, almost like cuffs. Soul walks over to talk to her. She demands to know what happened. He says he's waited 16 years to think of what he would say to her if he ever saw her again. And then we cut away from that scene. Obviously, again, another fake out. So we're going to wait 2 more episodes probably to find out what happened 16 years ago. Our final scene of this episode sees Osha walk over to the Cortosis helmet, stare at it for a little while, then she touches it, then she decides to put it on, and as she puts it on, the music stops, and we hear her breathing, and we see the eye slits, and it mirrors when Darth Vader's helmet got put on at the end of Revenge of the Sith. How amazing! And that is episode 6 of The Acolyte, an episode where not a lot happens, but at least we do get some explanation of some things. But again, with the fake outs, with Soul not being able to tell May what he wants to say and getting interrupted. And then we have the part where she's on the ship and Soul is a Jedi Master. So either he's faking out this whole time that he doesn't realize that it's May instead of Osha, or he truly doesn't know until he gets told by Basil, the furry tracker creature beaver thingy. Who knows? This makes no sense. This show makes no sense. It's really difficult to watch. I'll keep you updated on the last 2 episodes just to finish this thing up. But until then, I'm Pop Blender. I'll see you in the next video. Please like, share, subscribe if you like what you heard. And if you didn't, thank you for hanging out this long.